All right, here we are, day number 9, and this is happening on Saturday. Once again, I'm late on these recaps, and it's because the business that I thought I only had scheduled for 3 days this week turned out to not only take the other 2 days of the week, but is going to run deep into the weekend. And so this recap's going to be a quick one. I'm not going to go into the trades too much. But I will say, day number 9, I felt okay with it. There's no real problem here. I was pretty irritated a couple of times during this day. I did get interrupted a couple of times during this day, which you'll see when I switch over to my trade log. So despite accuracy of 66%, 2 out of 3, I still closed red on this day, which continues this very annoying trend of 2 red days, 2 green days, with the red days being bigger. And we'll get to that. I'll rant about that in another video. But for now, I closed day number 9, which was January 28th, with a P&L of negative $38.87, which for just over 1.5% into the red on the ROE side. So here's a look at the 3 trades that I took on Thursday, the 28th, day number 9. And you'll notice that one of the position sizes, the one on the red trade, was a lot bigger. It was actually the biggest position I've taken since day number 2. And the reason for that was the risk. Mainly, I found a spot finally in this ridiculous market where I actually did feel comfortable using one of my normal setups. And so I got long in a spot where I was risking only about 13 cents. And my profit target was close to 55 cents, and that was only the initial profit target. So I felt really good about this trade, and I don't feel at all bothered by this loss, really. I do think it's a bit of a bummer given the action that was happening, and also the fact that I didn't take 2 trades on the same symbol, which was NAKD, one pre-market and then one in the first few minutes of the day. So we'll open up my broker screen here and take a quick look at the 3 trades that I'm talking about, 2 that I didn't take, and then the one that I did take. Now, the first one took place pre-market right after this huge wash. I thought, okay, this is way too much of a drop here. There must be a snapback, and I really started preparing for a setup that I almost never reach for, which is a dead cat bounce. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the explanations of what drove me with, this idea, especially not about a trade I didn't even take. But in any case, there was a support level rather at 140 that I was really paying close attention to, and especially more so when the price got down to that level around whatever time there, 9 o'clock. And if I zoom out, you'll see what I'm talking about here, where there was almost the same situation earlier the day before. And there was a bounce off 140 and then a rip all the way back up. And I thought, okay, that's probably a psychological level where we're likely to get that bounce. And long story short, it washed through all the way down to 126, and I thought, that idea is busted. But then it snapped right back up, and for a moment, I hesitated. I had my finger on the trigger, and I didn't do it. Was to take 1,000 shares at the break of 150. But at that time, I couldn't come up with risk, I couldn't come up with where I should risk off of, and I couldn't come up with the profit target, which are the 2 main elements to a plan. So I decided against that trade, and part of the reason was because it was leading into the bell too. I wasn't sure about whether or not the amount of manipulation that's going on would affect how this trade plays out. And so long story short is that I didn't take it. Now, of course, we can see that, it rips all the way up, and that's when I got interested again, was this 5-minute flag in the first minutes of the day coming off that squeeze pre-market. One thing that turned me off of this trade was the volume. Really took me by surprise. If I zoom in the 1-minute chart, you'll see that in the first minute of the day, 1 minute, we're talking about almost 31 million shares of volume, which is basically, I got video of this day. I later deleted it because it was almost 8 gigs. But the video, I rewatched it, and it was mind-blowing. It was just as mind-blowing as when I experienced it the first time of seeing, 500,000 share orders on my level 2 just vanishing. And it came to the point where I wasn't even looking at the level 2. I wasn't looking at the tape. I wasn't looking at the level 2. I just basically was looking at the charts because that was the only thing that was even remotely readable. And on this situation, once again, I hesitated, and I wasn't really sure where to risk from, and I couldn't come up with a plan that I really liked enough that didn't have me risking like $200 on a small position. And so I eventually slept on it. I did, hesitate right at the break of 270. I did it again at the break of 280. And then once last time was at $3, and past that point, I was just thinking like, okay, it's way too extended now. I missed it, and so I left it alone. And as you can see, there was a flawless long body, or very close to flawless long body, coming off that flag, and so the resolution was perfect. And I definitely felt kind of annoyed at not having got in that. So the trade I did take is what I've got lined up to here on the 1 minute chart, which I've blown up a little bit. And this was pretty much a first 1 minute candle to make a new high. It was a 1 minute play, which is the only real part that I'm upset about. But in any case, I watched very closely at 9:52 on this candle right here, when there was a breakdown below the temporary support level at 270, and then there was a basically world war right off of 240. There was continuous selling pressure pushing down against 240, and then there would be bid support coming out of nowhere to pick it up at 240. And so what I was looking was for a volume ramp coming out of that bounce, and then a 5 minute pattern to develop to support it. And I was going to try to hold all the way up to a high of day retest. However, I also had an idea that I would most likely be ditching some at $3 if the price action was weak. And if it wasn't weak, if it was super strong like it was on this first rip, well then $3 would be the place where I take a half add-on, so 250 shares. Now, as you'll see when I advance the chart there, this did come back down, and the candle I stopped out on, I believe, was right here at 9:58, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 9:58. So you can see that I really didn't have a lot of patience on this stock, and that was by design. That wasn't an accident. I very much wanted to risk against 270 pretty much the whole time. My entry was planned to be above 280. That went fine. I got in okay, 500 shares. And it really didn't take too long, and I found myself stopping out at 270. And then only a few minutes after I closed that trade, I ended up getting like 3 phone calls in a row that took up a bunch of my time, distracted me, and just got me in kind of like outside of my trading zone. It was like I felt I finished my day already, even though I still wanted to trade. And this is the type of interruption that led me to take Friday completely off. I didn't even open anything. I just decided on Thursday night that Friday was going to be an off day, and I should stop trying to trade under these conditions. Now, I haven't really got into it. I just said there's business that, I have to take care of. But the type of business is really annoying. It's not something I'm good at, and it's been coming at me in a very aggressive way. And that's about all I'm going to say about it. I did get back to my PC later. You can see at 11:37 I got back into it with GBR, taking a small win. Very quick win. That was good. Trying to book a much bigger one, and basically this was a profitable failure. Nothing exciting to talk about there. So that's going to be it for this recap. Short and not really sweet in my opinion. I gotta say I'm kind of frustrated this week. This week has been really frustrating, in fact. It's basically a break-even week, and I feel like it's a huge loser. I feel like there's so much that I left on the table, and it's not the left on the table that bothers me. It's that I'm not sure how to approach the situation, and I'm borderline probably going to even make a separate video about it just to talk about it, which I'm sure many other people have done so far. But this situation with the market lately and the short squeezes, I have to say I do not like it one bit. It sounds crazy. I never thought I'd be complaining about volatility, but I feel this is unsafe, and this is going to lead to really bad things down the line. I feel like we're in a time right now that's going to turn out to be very significant in the long term, and it will be talked about, in the future. It might even get into the books kind of thing, like the educational resources, in that the significance of it long term is going to be big. And the last thing I want with this account in this state, with this style that I'm trying right now, the last thing I want is to get, go balls first into some really high risk position and then have myself get manipulated into like a $500 loss or something. That's really not what I want. Now, that said, that NAKD trade that I did take, the sizing of that was not a mistake. I was trying to size up. I've been looking for a while for a spot to get in where the action is somewhat calm. And believe it or not, despite the ridiculous volume on NAKD on Thursday, that was actually the spot. Even though there were, 500,000 share orders disappearing in half a second, I was okay with the speed of the move more so than some of the other names I was looking at. And especially I was okay with the spreads. The spreads were very consistent on NAKD. And for that reason, and because of the price action, I felt it was a safe spot to get involved. And that's fine by me. When I look back at this trade, I'm happy with it. That's a perfectly acceptable loss in that, my ratio was good, my plan was good going in. And, even though the stop was pretty tight, I do feel like that was a high percentage trade. However, I look at some of my other trades, especially from recent days, and I'm not happy with them. Even the wins, like a lot of the wins, I'm not happy with. And I feel that this is largely due to my own problems in that my discipline game has been very weak lately. And this isn't being helped by all the other business and stress that I have going on. So right now, my focus is mainly to stay away from this craziness. Going forward, if I happen to get all this stuff done by Monday and I'm ready to trade on Monday, my plan is going to be pretty much to avoid anything to do with Wall Street bets. Any of those kinds of names. I know I did mention costs, and I was watching that way back, and I was interested way back. It's far past the time to get involved with costs right now. More than anything, I'm looking for the one with just the normal runner. I just want to see something with news that has a legitimate catalyst and not just a short float. Because if you look at my broker screen here, all of these names pretty much, normally in this user notes section, I have news. I have the float and then I have news, which was the case on American Airlines here. 503 million share float, earnings beat plus, and then it has the short float. But the rest of them you can see not applicable, which means no news, and then that little percentage in brackets, that's the short float. And I don't really consider short float to be news. Like, I understand that these squeezes are happening, but this isn't the system that I have. I'm not in a position to be taking advantage of this. And while it is tempting for me to just load like the rest of the account into my IB account, it's very tempting to do that and to just size everything up and to be going back to the scalper type mentality that has been good for me in the past. I am tempted to do that, but that isn't the plan, and I think this is probably one of the worst possible times to deviate from the plan, especially given the amount of thought that I have put into my own. But in any case, my lunch break is about 15 minutes past done. I have to get back to work now. I do make these things in my free time, so even though this was not really in depth or looking at the trades too much, it's the best I can do for right now. So until next time, hopefully I will be active on Monday. I can't guarantee that. It's still up in the air. But on my next active day, like I said, my main focus is to avoid any of the manipulation and just look for the real moves that would also be present at any other time in history.